All right, class. I reformed some of my boards. We have a topic up here now for our Cornell notes, an essential question. How did the Age of Metternich bring about order to Europe? Liberalism, one of the ideas being floated around Europe at this time. First Western thought that saw the individual as self-sufficient, a free being. Reformists through politics. Humans have certain natural rights. That was put forth by John Locke, and a lot of the reformers at this time and liberalists saw this through the Constitution of the United States. They saw it at the beginning of the French Revolution, but then it didn't work out so well due to the fact of Napoleon and other ideas that were being floated around. The rights were guaranteed in constitutions. You saw this in the economies and the economists. Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. Bible of Capitalism advocated laissez-faire, the invisible hand of self-regulation. David Ricardo, the iron law of wages, plenty of workers to keep working wages low. So this liberalism was seen in other places other than just the government. It was also in political spectrum, but it was also seen in the economies. All right, the impact of liberalism inspired many revolutionary movements through Europe during this time. France, revolution between 1830 and 1848, liberalism became embodied in some of the states in the German Confederation. It influenced reform in Britain. There were mild reforms in Russia since it was so conservative. Now also during this time you had nationalism, or the idea of a nation state. Cultural unity into self-government, common language, history, traditions, common loyalties. So there were some people that were advocating that a nationalist movement or becoming a country in and of itself. And you had this in France and England, but more so in Germany and Italy, where there were a loose confederation of states and not a one whole country. It was supported by liberals and reformers. Now, Johann Herder was a German. He was regarded as the father of the modern nationalism. His ideas led to the notion that every nation should be sovereign, or the right to rule its own, and have the same nationality. The Greek Revolution, we actually saw this in our warm-up yesterday, of 1821 to 29, was one of the first. With the decline of the Ottoman Empire, who would rule this area? The Ottoman Empire was pulling out of what was then Eastern Europe. England, France, and Russia aided the Greeks from a Christian point of view against the Muslim Turks. The Treaty of Adrianople, the Greek autonomy after Russia defeated the Turks. And this was a revolution that established Greek as in the present form of it is today. Okay, revolutions of the 1830s. The revolutions of the 1830s sparked by liberalism against conservative governments. So the conservative governments, especially after the Napoleonic era ended, were very, very conservative, and so this liberalism got underway and started to move things more towards a liberal point of view. France, the July Revolution of 1830s, Louis Philippe was of Orleans family, was named as the new king. Constitutional monarchy, he was called the bourgeoisie king. He put forth a lot of ideas that the middle class held, the bourgeoisie. The July Revolution sparked more revolutions throughout Europe. In Italy, the nationalists called for unification. Giuseppe Mazzini led a revolutionary group called the Young Italy, and they fought for unified Italy. Italy was divided up between the Papal States, Sicily, the northern states like Venice and Genoa were divided, so that it was hard for Italy to come to a consensus to have one country. The German states, Carlsbad Decree of 1819 restricted quite a few freedoms in the German states, but students and professors nevertheless tried to protest for liberal ideas. Liberal ideas were crushed by the Metternich domination of German and Prussian influence. So this conservative ideas that Metternich put forth were very, very popular, and the government used them quite widely. In Poland, the Tsar Nicholas I crushed any nationalist uprisings in Poland and claimed the right to rule Poland. And this would continue on into the First World War and even into the Second World War. Prussia established the Zollverein in 1834, which unified 17 German states economically, which also had a greater chance of uniting them even further. So it reduced tariffs in between the two different countries or different states, and it allowed for the people in Germany to see themselves as a more unified country. In England, Britain abandons the Congress system in 1822, which allowed for more reforms from liberals. In our last board here, Reforms Bill of 1832 was a milestone in British history. It eliminated underpopulated rural electoral districts, and it allowed more people to vote. Supremacy of the House of Commons over the House of Lords, and this is the first time that that happened. The House of Commons is more related to our House of Representatives, and the House of Lords is more like our senators. And if you know anything about our system in the United States, there are far fewer people in the House of Lords than in the House of Commons. And in our system, there are far fewer senators than there are representatives. The Factory Act of 1833, no children under the age of 9 working in factories. The Mine Act of 1842, kids can work in mines. So you can see these reforms are not revolutions like there were in other European countries, but they're reforming. The Chartists sought universal suffrage, or the right to vote. More reforms. The Corn Laws, repealed in 1846, lower food prices, officially ended the policy of mercantilism. The Corn Laws were put into effect so people that grew corn in England could make the most money, and they would get government subsidies. But at the same time, there were many, many people that were starving to death because they didn't import corn from mainland Europe, which could easily supply people with the food necessary to survive. England had small amounts of unrest compared to mainland Europe, but this unrest took the form more of reforms as opposed to revolutions. All right, that's our notes for today. Thanks.